ここは
どんな客人も歓迎いたしますよ。私はヘドン、この塔の管理人。
Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. We're on the second episode here for the Tower of God series, happening every Friday, just a reminder for you guys. And today we're talking about episode 2 of season 1 for the anime, and episode 56 of season 3 of the manhwa. So, like always, we're going to start with the anime, because the second half is going to be spoilers for all these newcomers. So let's go ahead and get into it. Episode 2, titled 3 out of 400. Referencing what happens in this chapter, or in the chapter as well as the episodes. But yeah, I really like this episode. Again, the voice cast is just perfect for this, for all the new characters that showed up.
I completely agree, and I think I said it last week that, you know, the way that it started off was really rough, man. The pacing, it really had me worried, but I did mention, I said, you know, if they fix that pacing or just fix the way that they're going to do the content coming into the next episode, it's going to be solid. And you know what? I can see where they're going, you know, and I'm fully okay with it.
Yeah, same here. After watching it, and I read the chapters before, and then this covers like the start, like halfway into, I think it was chapter 6, and then the end, and then the first half of chapter 11. So it's not really 6 chapters per episode like we said in the last one. But after seeing the differences, I'm more okay with it now, because this like plants it for me. And I'm like, you know what? They're adapting it differently. Like, this is just the anime version of Tower of God, so it's not going to be completely 1-to-1. And I'm okay with that for the most part. There were some parts where I was like, yeah, that's fine for sure. Yeah,
I definitely agree. The parts that they are changing though, I'm enjoying it. You know, like them having that little snack. That was really nice to see. You know, you could see a little bit of the wholesome parts of Rack and the whole team, how they start off together. But I will say that, you know, the 1-to-1 panels, they're fucking great, man. Like that one with Shibisu where he's doing that face, it's just so good. I mean, I was watching, yes. I'm like, man, like that, because I read it right before I started watching it, and I was like, oh man, you know what? They did a good job.
Yeah, they did. I was worrying about that part because we didn't really see a whole lot of that last episode, and I was really glad to see it here, especially with Rack. Like the fact that they got his simple faces and reactions down has it more confirmed that I'm gonna be happy with the outcome of this anime.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I mean, and you said it earlier, Danny, but the voice acting is just so good. Like for everybody that's coming in, you know, I can't wait to see all the other characters that I know are going to come out in this first season, you know, because I'm eager to see how those voice actors are going to be. I'm sure they're going to be great. You know, they're doing a phenomenal job already.
Yeah, man, like Rack is just perfect. He's so good. I loved Leiruro's voice actor as well. Really felt like a Ranker's voice kind of thing.
I completely agree. I mean, All Might is doing Rack, so yeah, you know he's got the energy for it.
One thing that is different here that we didn't bring up last episode, I forgot to, but I noticed it after reading the chapters for this episode was Bam. He doesn't, the way he interacts with Kun in this episode does play out different, so. I'm fine with that. But the interesting thing is with Black March and Green April, right? In the manhwa, the names are written on the handles, but here they have the emblems of Jihad, and that's a big giveaway for Bam, and that's why Kun's all interested in him. And I thought that was interesting. And also like him hiding Black March when they entered the Evankil's room after they cleared the second part of the test. I was like, oh, okay, so this is. I like this kind of change for sure.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I forgot to bring it up as well because when I was rereading it, I was like, I don't ever remember seeing the logo on the weapons at all. But it is a nice giveaway, you know, because now as we see Anak, I mean, we know what's going to play out with her and her story. Mm-hmm. But for all the newcomers, you're kind of like, okay, well, what is this weapon? Clearly it's a weapon of jihad that it was given to a princess, but is she a princess? It leaves all these really great questions that are going to be answered later on, and it's nice. It's definitely a way that they're taking in the anime that I really do appreciate because, like we said before, there's a lot of content in Tower of God. There's a lot of lore, and for these little subtle hints,
Yeah.
I think it's really good. I think it's a smart move.
hmm Another important thing I thought to bring up is watching the episode. I noticed that they're overlapping scenes together. Right, the one with Rose explaining what irregulars are and like how the tower works, and while he's explaining it, we see Shibisu and like that other girl, I forget her name. They're all arguing about who's gonna go through the Shinsu wall first. And in the manhwa, it's not really layered like that. It's like, oh, here's this piece of information, and then here's the next scene that plays out. So that part, I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be an anime thing for sure because, like you just said, there's a lot of content in Tower of God, and to fit it all in an episodic way, that's the only way I could see it is with it being layered. So I thought that was a good choice for them.
And then I mentioned it last week too, but there was some conversation that was missed in the first episode that we saw in the first few chapters.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's important that the anime establishes from the beginning, and they already done a really good job just in the first two episodes, the relationship and how devoted Bam is to having Rachel in his life. So with the anime starting off with that scene, I knew right away. I was like, okay, you know what? I saw it since last episode. That's how they're gonna take it. They're gonna keep putting in all of those fine details that we may have missed with Bam and Rachel slowly as we, proceed through the first season, which is going to be great because it's going to lead to a lot of really, really good build up. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I really like the routes that they're taking. I think this next episode, again, if I'm correct, this is where they start talking about all the different classes. So this next one is also going to be a big hitter. They have to do this next episode correctly as well. I mean, the second one, phenomenal. I'm happy with the route that they took, but once they start talking about all the classes, the wave controllers, the light bearers, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be interesting. It has to be done the right way.
Oh yeah, and I do think it's also interesting how they're showing off what Shinsu looks like in the show. I'm hoping it's not like, because it's all water, right? And that's like how we kind of figured what Shinsu felt like and looked like in the manhwa. And then just seeing the wall, it sort of has like this glare on it. I'm thinking like, okay, I wonder if this is going to be a filter they're going to throw on top, or they're not even going to show it once we get into actual levels, actual floors in the tower where it's all just covered in Shinsu all the time. So I'm wondering how they're going to do that.
That's a good point. If I can remember correctly, the first season, the only part where they talk about a little bit more of Shinsu is when they get into the class. And then I think, I'm remembering this correctly because they have to go speak to the administrator.
Yes.
So
yeah,
from
that's
there,
right.
from there, we'll be able to see how they do it. I think it might be more of the water style, but I want to say going forward, once they, get into higher floors, it might not be there. It might be really subtle. Because there was a statement that Liraro said where once you get to the 20th floor and up, this is just normal. This pressure of Shinsu is just in everyday life for people.
Yeah. But I'm just glad that they're showing off like how it's kind of going to feel like. So that's pretty good.
I love it. I love the effect for it. I mean, if we could have got that when it first started, when we were reading it, man, that would have been great. But you know what? I'm okay with it. The anime is doing really good job with the art style, the animation. It's all looking really clean.
Yeah, definitely. I had a fun time with the episode for sure. And yeah, overall, I mean, I'm just glad that my main part is I'm glad that the comedic parts are still here because season 1 has so much of that. I can't wait.
There's so much of that comic relief before we really start getting into the nitty gritty parts, like the big conflict. so to speak, of Tower of God, and I'll be very happy to continue seeing it go on. I mean, and there's one specific scene with Rack. I'm not gonna say it, but I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy once you see that animated because it's gonna be great. He will
It's gonna be so
become
good.
he's gonna become the fan favorite before anybody else. I guarantee it.
Yeah, because he has if I'm remembering correctly, season 1 has a lot of screen time with Rack, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, man, that's
So
going to be so much fun.
I just can't wait.
One thing I thought was surprising was we did get a scene of Yuri this episode when Bam was thinking about who she was, right? As Kun's explaining what the Black March really is. It's only a weapon for Jihad princesses. And then we see her with Evan, and, you know, they're in that middle section of the tower that Lero was just explaining later down the line of the episode. So I'm wondering if we're going to actually see her throughout the rest of the season. Because, I mean, I haven't looked at the voice cast yet, but I wonder if her voice actress is just for her or for other characters, right?
I see. You have a good point there.
Yeah. And still, she still doesn't really feel like herself at this point. She's very like tsundere in this scene, and I was like, I mean, she's not really like that in the manhwa. You know, she's not as aggressive in her vocabulary as she is right now.
Yeah, you have a good point. I don't even think she gets to that state at all.
I
Even
mean,
further on in
the
the
only thing I
manhwa.
could think of when she acts like that is when it's like in season 2, when she's talking to another princess that's going to show up later in the anime.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the only time I could think of it. Yeah.
I will say there was one change, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it, because I feel it is pretty important, at least the names. When Bam does ask Leroro about irregulars in the manhwa, he gives a couple names,
Oh yes.
and I mean only because we know how the story progresses. There's one name in there that you have to know who it is. You know, you have to at least be mentioned of this character because he's a total badass. Like, just putting it out there. You know, I wonder how they're gonna bring that name up. And I hope it's not dependent if, you know, they run for a second season or not, because I think regardless, people should hear that name.
So yeah, I was thinking about this because it's like, oh yeah, they're not really throwing as much lore as they did in the manhwa, right? As Sui did. And I think that's because the way that they're trying to lay out the story for the anime, because, you know, we got a lot of lore dump from Yuri in the beginning chapters that they cut out in the anime. And they even mentioned those names that we're talking about right now, but, you know, it wasn't in the anime. And then, only here in the second episode when Kun's explaining what the Black March is when we're getting more lore about princesses and all that. So I'm wondering if they're just going to hold off on it for the sake of not giving too much information in the beginning of the show, because up until they decide to, you know, once they're done with all the training and the tests, it's a lot of lore dumps into how the world works. So I'm wondering if they're going to just save all that for later episodes once we actually get into the tower.
I'd be okay with that progress. I definitely would. It's just, I mean, in the manhwa they give, I think, like 3 names, but one of them is the most important out of those 3.
Yeah, well, I know one name they didn't like say, but it was shown in text as Evankel, right? I don't think anybody uttered her name, but we see it when, you know, when they're done with the second test and they go into that chamber, and it says right there, you know, Evankel's like room or whatever it says.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think with the next character that showed at the last bit of the episode, he's usually I think he was the one that brought up Evankel and explained the floor.
Okay, because I think I know Evan said it in the beginning chapters, like we're like, oh, where did Bam go? You know, and it's like, oh, he went to, you know, this area. And it's like, oh, that's Evankel's floor or whatever. And I just think it's like not to overload the new audience so much.
Right. Yeah, I'm just hoping we get those names at some point. again, the fan base is doing a phenomenal job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people are going crazy all over social media for it. I keep seeing so many things. People are really excited about the anime. Lots of newcomers are really enjoying it. Um, we said this before in the chat. I just want a second season, man. First season's great, but the second season, it just there's just so much, and
Yeah,
it's so
honestly,
long.
I've been thinking about season 2 a lot because I'm like, man, like I'm just remembering everything. I'm like, I want to just go straight to season 2, like maybe just reread season 2 only, because there's so much good
Yeah.
stuff in there.
And it's so long, and the way it starts and the way it ends, and even just the middle part where, oh my God, it's all so good. But I will say, when people finish season 1, the anime, it's going to be really divided. People are going to be really happy. People are
Hmm.
going to be very angry for a very good reason. People are going to be happy, like,
Yeah,
oh, dude, yeah, this is the end of the first season. Cool. They did a great job, like the fans that know. And then the newcomers they're going to be very divided, like in Berserk, with,
we'll see because we haven't gotten a lot with this character that we're talking about yet. I think we've only gotten like maybe 2 or 3 scenes. So I'm very curious to see how she's gonna be in the anime for sure.
also there's now I'm just getting too far into it, but there's a specific family line that's going to come out really soon. I'm eager to see how they are animated because in the manhwa they were
Right.
monsters. But another good thing I loved seeing my boy, I can't pronounce his name, Lauer or something, the guy who's always sleeping. That
Yeah.
was great. That was so good. I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah, he's a fun one. He gets a good amount of screen time too.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, just seeing some of the characters in this episode, right? They're panning over like, oh, who's survived out of the first 200, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what she did. I remember this guy. I was like, all right, cool, man. I'm getting hyped.
It's all looking good so far though. Much props to the anime production. They're doing a solid job.
Yeah, really good stuff. And we actually got the ending for this, right? Because I don't think
Yes.
last episode there was anything for there. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I like how the opening is with Bam and the ending is with Rachel.
Hmm.
And I like how it's very abstract. There's no real spoilers. You can't really speculate off anything, and I could speculate off the opening only because I know so much of the first season, and I can kind of see where certain scenes might, foreshadow a specific time.
Hmm.
But the ending, I watched the episode 3 times and I couldn't get anything. I had no idea. I was like, what could you couldn't do anything with this. Like, even if you knew the content, which I think is really nice because it keeps it very ambiguous.
Yes.
You know, it keeps you wondering, like, okay, these are really the two main characters, so to speak, at least for now. And you have one frantically searching in the opening, going through all these things, and then in the ending, she's just sleeping, wakes up with a smile, and I think that was a really nice touch. I also like that they don't give a preview until the day before the episode drops.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Like, I was thinking about that when I saw the preview for it because I was like, oh, cool, because I have notifications turned on for everything Tower of God related.
Hmm.
And I saw, oh, okay, preview, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, I'm with it. It's very different. I can't think of any anime that's ever done something like this. It's usually like a little bit of a preview, but I fully enjoy it because it's kind of letting you like bask in the episode for a second, take a breather and then give a couple days to think about it. Boom, here's a preview. Next day, here's the episode. I like it a lot. It's a different approach.
Yeah, I think that might have to do with the fact that this is a Crunchyroll original. They have their own animation studio working on this, and I know it is being broadcasted in Japan at the same time it's released on their app. So that might be it because it's on an app that they don't have to put that preview to hold people in for that channel on the next week.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
and I think that's fine because usually like I've been watching some anime since I have Crunchyroll, and I noticed I'm like, oh yeah, they really like show a lot in those preview clips, you know. So I'm glad that they're not doing that here.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. Like in most animes, you can get like a speculation of what might happen. You'll see a couple
Hmm.
characters, and you're kind of like, "Ooh, I like that style." When do they come out? Type of deal. But this, you just get the bread and butter. It's like, nope, that's all you're getting. No teasers. Just keep watching the show. I'm fully with it.
Yeah. One last thing I want to say for the anime is I'm kind of bummed out that when Bam introduces himself, he doesn't say 25th Bam. He just says Bam.
Yeah,
So that kind of has me bummed out because I'm like, what I liked about 25th Bam is like people are like, oh, that's such a strange name, you know, and then you like when they talk more about him or to him, they're like, oh yeah, this guy is pretty strange, you know. It adds that element of mystery to his character, and I'm just like, oh, they could have kept that in there.
yeah. I'm still struggling with that, man. And for folks who don't know, Bam well, in some type of translation in Korean is actually knight. So he is the 25th knight.
Hmm.
So I feel that hopefully that comes out at some point.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I know when they changed his name, I think it's like
Is it-
Yoru or something.
Yeah,
That also
yeah, which
means
is
night.
hmm
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. I
yeah.
just I I feel like that just to add to what you said, it would have been a really nice touch, especially when Leroro mentioned, "Oh, a monster has arrived."
Oh man, when I was rereading the chapters and I saw that, and I was like, man, I hope they keep this in the anime. And then it was just a black screen, and he said that, and I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's it leads up to so much. It gives people the idea like he isn't just some frail little boy. This guy is gonna do some damage to the tower.
Hmm. Great stuff. Also, none of the other characters changed their names. Everybody's still the same, so that was pretty cool too. I wonder how long they're going to be doing that for, because as we both know, the names get very Korean after a certain point in the series.
They definitely do, especially in season 2.
Oh, especially season
Well,
3, like with these characters that we're going to be talking about right now too.
oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, overall, really great episode. My hope is restored. I was really shaky last week about it, man. I'm not gonna lie. But
Yeah. Honestly, it was just the pacing and the lack of content that we missed out. But here, understanding that, okay, yeah, we're just gonna go our own direction for the anime, and that's totally fine. You know, if I'm gonna recommend it for people for sure, but also maybe you want to check out the manhwa too, just see what's different and what they missed out on.
completely agree.
Yeah.
And I know that they've been doing a good job. They, as in the Twitter page for Tower of God, like the actual production studio, the official one, they're
Hmm.
like, hey, new episode dropped, but you should also read the manhwa, and then they link it right there. It's like, that's really cool. Keep doing that because some folks should really be able to read it and check it out, see the differences, and also see just how far it's come in its own art style. Because starts off, it's a little
Oof.
rough.
Oof. Yeah.
It's and that's I'm stretching it there because it's pretty rough. But you get to see where they got the basis for how and why they're doing the animation the way that they're doing it.
Hmm.
So it gives you a little bit more of an understanding, and you get to respect it a lot more. And at least for me, I get more excited because I'm rereading the chapters for the episode, and I'm like, man, this is gonna be so good. Boom, 10 minutes later, I'm like, this is clean job.
Yeah, fits really well. And again, it makes me think of when they get into season 2 of the manhwa for the anime. Are they going to change the animation style at that point, or if they're going to continue with this? That's going to be the interesting part. As
Look,
well
man,
as whether or not season 1 of the anime is going to be all of season 1 of the manhwa. Which at the current pace, I feel like we could finish season 1 by episode 13. They might cut some stuff out, I would feel like. Particularly probably in the middle. We're going to see some stuff cut out, or just the pace picking up more just to get through it. Because there is a lot of lore and jargon thrown in at a certain point, just to get us ready for what the characters are going to do. So That's going to be interesting to see.
Now, if we do get slated for a second season, I've said this before, this is my hope, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 studios I really would love to pick up Tower. One of them is a studio that does JoJo. David Productions.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, Dave Productions.
They could do a great job with Tower. And then the other one is the one that did Mob Psycho. I can't remember the name.
Bones. I was just thinking that too.
Those 2, I would be happy with, man. They can take it. They can run with it. The content would be solid. I'm okay with that. Crunchyroll's not doing a bad job, but I would like to see a bigger beast take on, especially because season 2, those fight scenes, man. Oh.
Yeah, if I had a pick, season 2 should be Bones. I think because I'm watching Mob Psycho right now. I've read it, I haven't watched it, and just seeing what they're doing with all the special effects and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this could be fine for season 2, and then get David Productions for season 3, man, because that's when the action gets pretty intense, and like also special effects out the ass. And David Productions does a good job with both of that.
I'm gonna agree with your order, Danny, because I've seen some episodes of the anime of Mob, and man, those effects. I can think of one specific battle where those effects would come in great.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Oh yeah. I hope we get big names like that to work on Tower. And yeah, like you said, like it's doing pretty good, fan base wise. A lot of people are liking it on Twitter, which is good because this is the start of like the all the content dump, like I was saying earlier. So, if we get the fan base continuing forward from that, definitely get a season 2. I mean, hey, there's that Crunchyroll original, with that pink haired girl that I know nobody really liked, and that got a season 2. So we're probably more than likely gonna get a season 2 here.
I'm excited, man. I'm just excited to see the rest of this first season play out, and hopefully they can complete all the content in the first season. But even if they don't, I'm okay with that too. Because I feel that the end of season 1 needs to be done with just the right pieces.
Yeah, I mean, if like there's just that one scene right at the end of season 1 for the manhwa, like that's a perfect way to end a season of anime. And if this does get stretched out to 2 seasons, I'm just trying to think, okay, what's the halfway point of season 1 for the manhwa to where they could cut it off? You know,
right.
But that's the worrying part, because the middle chunk of season 1, I mean, I wouldn't cut that in half at all. But then if you cut after that, there's not a lot of content to stretch into a whole season. So,
right.
Yeah, I think I am at the end of the day hoping that season 1 is season 1.
Good stuff, though.
Yeah, great stuff. Can't wait for next week. See what else we can get here. I think Kun shines for the next episode with the 3rd test. So,
definitely.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun to see.
I think the next episode is also going to talk a little bit about the families.
I think it might, yeah, because as Lewa Rose said to Bam at the end of the episode, he's like, hey, watch out for Kun. I think, I can't remember if it's the anime or the manhwa. He says he comes from a dangerous family. I think that was from the anime. So we're probably going to get, some more lore with that. Yeah, so cool, man. That's going to wrap us up for the anime section of this episode. Great stuff. Remember, that's Wednesday mornings at 7:30 Pacific time. And now let's go ahead and move on to the manhwa here. Remember, this is the latest free chapter over on Webtoon. You can buy up to 3, but, assuming a majority of people aren't buying the chapters, we're going for the free episodes. So here's episode 56, A Rough War. Starting off with a recap of what just happened with Paul transforming for the first time in a long time. But sadly, we didn't get to see him do much because it cuts off into what else is going in the other battlefields. So that was unfortunate.
I felt this was kind of a shorter chapter than most, which I'm okay with, because there's a lot of scenes that they threw in here that are pretty important. I mean, if we're just going down the order of what had happened, we see that fight with Doom and Paul, and then it goes straight into Evankill's battle, which I'm going to tell you right now, man, I was busting up laughing. She is literally fighting a monkey that is throwing pellets of his poop, of his shit. He's literally throwing feces as a weapon. That I was dying, dude. I was literally dying over here. I was like, this. Like, okay, man. You've thrown some weird stuff at me before, but this one. And then when it gets burned, it divides. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about it last episode because this fight didn't show up when we started this series on the show. But yeah, when this monkey showed up in the fight, I'm like, dude, what is Tower God doing, man? We're getting into some weird territory, dude. Like,
I feel like this is like the comic relief type deal, but I mean, it works. It works really well. It just, I was not expecting a giant monkey throwing poop.
mm-hmm. And just the way, like, the monkey looks at you with those black eyes, I was just like, oh yeah, we're getting into like that wild stuff that Tower has that we only have like a scratch of so far.
It reminds me of some character. I can't think of it. Oh, what's his name? Hold on. I'm gonna find it. It's that one. It's from Madagascar.
Oh, the lemur.
Yes, I think that's him.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, the little short one, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the mouse lemur in Madagascar. He looks like that, but just a big giant. I couldn't see it. I couldn't like turn my eye away from it. I was like, dude, it just looks like him. But what it leads into, the lore that we have with Evankel, and I don't want to say it's familiar, but the what do they call it? The natural power or the
ancient powers.
There you go. There, the ancient powers that he has. I like that because it gives an idea that not all ancient power is just in the bloodline. You can actually come across it, and then you can join with it. You know, kind of like a symbiote type deal. But what I got from this scene was, if this has to find another host, the next best host would probably be Rack.
Man, that'd be great because honestly, right now, Rack, he's getting the Sakura treatment. If I had to compare, right, he's on the sidelines for most of the time, because Bam is just so strong now, and then Kun, he's kind of sticking by after he got those new powers when he talked to the younger version of his dad, and he's learning, and he learned with Evan those lighthouse skills that are like pretty advanced. And Rack right now, he's just barely learning how to use his ancient powers. So if he would get this and that would help him master those powers, that'd be perfect.
Dude, I mean, he's got the rocks, and then he's got the fire. Look, we've said this before on the main podcast, but dude, he's literally an earthbender.
Mm-hmm.
Why are earthbenders the best? They can bend lava.
Lava bending, bro. It's so cool.
I could literally see Rack do some lava bending, some fire bending, do some cool shit, some earth bending, man. But that's what I got from this though. That he's already born with this ability. I mean, he doesn't really know how to use it yet. He's kind of got an idea. He's used it a few times, but I feel that if he had this familiar with him, he'd be able to figure it out in a heartbeat. And then, seeing the background of how Evankel met Hansung and then kind of got into Fug and started this whole process. It was really cool to see because we never really got too much about her. We had her name in the series for a very long time. That she pops in, and now she's here to stay, which I really like because man, she is a badass.
Yeah, it's great, and I think this is the first time we saw her actually talk to this ancient power. Right? We've never seen it spoke before up until this flashback. So for me, that really changes things up because if we're to compare it to Stan's, from JoJo, this definitely changes the game if they have their own intellect, right?
And this is where we mentioned earlier that, I mean, the lore it just goes even deeper. Why does this have to keep passing on from host to host? Why does it have its own intellect? Like what is going on? How did Evanko actually find it? Is Evanko part of a certain type of family? These are the questions that always surface up whenever a good chapter comes out, where we get all this information for a character that we really wanted something from. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see more of this battle because I feel like this might be it for Ivanko in this war that we have going on. I mean, it looks like because towards the end of the chapter, it looks like she's about to get sniped
Oh, that's right.
from
Yeah.
from somebody in the Lopobia family. But I mean, I still feel like this was a short chapter. There was still a lot of good stuff. Evankel's was really nice. That battle was really, really cool to see. You know, getting introduced to the familiar that can actually speak a little bit about it. And I don't know if you caught on this, Danny, but only because I caught the correlation in the anime and in the beginning chapters of season 1 versus this newest chapter. So they're talking about Shinsu as, water vapor, just kind of what we need to go on in the tower. But in this latest chapter, it's talking about that life is meant to be burnt. Everything should be just caught on fire, and just completely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me wonder, maybe is that why Evankill got her own floor? To keep her power sustained. It gave me a lot of questions as to why everyone is so afraid of her, not just because she is powerful, she is a high ranker, but there's something about those flames that make a big difference to what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, this chapter, it reminds us again that Evankill is from the top 100 of the rankers, right? That she's one of the most powerful rankers in the tower. So that I think the fact that she has a familiar plays a little bit into it, because if we go back to the Hell Train arc for this season, and then go to the Floor of Death with Hell Joe, if things played out differently, he probably would have been the administrator on that floor, like Evankel is on the test floor. But that's because he has the baby administrator, in him. I think just because the fact that she's so powerful and has the ancient powers, and maybe because also she's with Foog at the end of the day as well, to try to like infiltrate into these important roles in the tower.
You have a point, but overall, I like the backstory. I like the lore that we got introduced to a little bit more.
Yeah, good stuff. And then we get a little peek at what we're probably gonna see next chapter, with White charging up those soul crystals he's got from all the people dying in the battlefield right now. So I feel like he is gonna show up and confront Caliban, where Bam and them are at right now at the wall.
I think so too. I think he's gonna make it in the nick of time. But I will say that they both want to destroy this wall, Caliban and Bam. So I don't think they're going to come to an understanding and be like, hey, we're both going to destroy this. I think it's more of, okay, White's going to show up, stop this blast because he's reached his peak, or very close to it, and then Bam's going to go ahead and keep going on with the plan, save his master, and then we'll really see a big battle going on at that point. But
Yeah.
to see all the big players in one spot, man, what a way to end the chapter.
I mean, especially with now, because we mentioned it last chapter, but Do-Won and Cha, this is the first time of them seeing each other since they woke up, and to each other's surprise, seeing that they're on different sides of this battle going on. I feel like we're gonna get a good majority of next chapter of them talking, understanding what's going on, and potentially them fighting.
I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I feel like that they're gonna fight, even though I would bet maybe Chad doesn't want to fight. I feel like he doesn't want to hurt her at all, and we'll just keep trying to reason with her. So we'll see what's gonna go on with that.
Yeah, I mean the other thing too is that she had no idea that he was also sealed in the wall because she went in first, and then he went in shortly after, and they were sealed on two different parts. So I feel that they'll probably fight, talk about what's going on while they're fighting, and then she might shift sides because he knows he's got to keep Bam alive versus that she has the impression that he's got to die. So that's going to be really interesting. And I will say, man, the coloring on Caliban's arm.
Yeah.
Like that's, man. I really didn't like this character when he first came out. I hated him.
Oh yeah.
I thought this guy was an asshole, man. But you know what? I fully respect him. Like I respected him then, but because he went through so much, he essentially was a different pupil, like Bam is to his master, But man, I was like, dude, you're just such an ass. But he's too cool. And dude, his fit. You see this boy with his beret? Like, let me
Dude,
cop, bro.
yeah, I was just looking at that.
Like, dog, come on, man.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you, Taylor boy. I need some of those.
I will say he's definitely gotten a lot more interesting over the course of his introduction because like in the beginning he was just a very one-toned character. He's like, I'm just super strong, but then when we got his backstory, that's when he got interesting. And then after the last arc, when he got demoted from squad commander, is when he started opening more of a character rather than just a strong guy.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you picked up on this, Danny, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but it looks like Calivan has developed some kind of like, you know what, I like you, kid, over to Bam. Because it sounds like he didn't want him to be there. Like, I'm here to do my thing, and yeah, you got me demoted. You made me realize that, you can't defeat me, but there's also something about you that maybe he sees in himself. And
Right, yeah.
I feel it just because there's that specific line. Hold on, where is it? Because I have it up right now.
In this chapter?
Yeah, it's in this chapter. Oh, yeah, I think it's the last panel. I was hoping to meet him again, but not so soon.
Oh, Bam.
I've got to do. Yeah. Oh no, I think that's Calivan.
No, that's
Calivan
Bam because the next
okay.
panel says I got to destroy the wall first, at least.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was Calivan because he also just wants to destroy the wall.
Yeah, I think the panel that you're trying to get the idea of is when he first talks to Bam, when he shows up on the at the wall. He's like, thanks to that unflinching courage of yours, it wasn't hard to guess what you do.
Oh, yep, there you go. But yeah, it just I don't know, man. I want this fight so bad, but I also don't want it because I don't want to see my boy get bodied again.
Yeah, I feel like Bam. Well, because you have to remember, Bam's not using the thorn at all. He's not using it until he gets permission from Evankel. So he's definitely going to be struggling because he's not going to be strong enough. But I feel like the way it might play out is they're going to fight for a bit. Bam's going to just do something else that surprises Calivan even more. Maybe start doing that beast transformation stuff he picked up in the last arc and attack, and then right before like he gets bodied hard, that's when White steps in to block an attack from Calivan, and then that's when they're going to fight, and then Bam's going to break open the defensive wall that they're at. I feel like that's how it's probably going to play out.
I'd be okay with that. But he only has one thorn now. He doesn't have two, I don't think.
No, he has two.
Oh, he does have two.
He has one. If I remember correctly, yeah, he has the first one, and then the second one he has is like a bit smaller than the first one he got.
Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Because if I remember correctly, when he first fought Calivan, he popped them both. And that was before the time. That was back in season 2, before the time skip. And that was too much strain on his body, but he was able to hit Calivan and pierce him. And that's when we saw just that pure white Shinsu inside of Calivan.
Mm-hmm. And he had that big old hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we haven't seen him use them this whole season because Invaco was like, yeah, you don't need to use those right now.
Man, could you imagine when we see the combo wombo of the Thorns and the Red Tharissa at the same time?
Mm-hmm. You have to remember, he beat that low ranker in that test without the Thorns. So we're gonna be seeing some good stuff once he popped those out. I feel like maybe this is the arc that Ivanko gives him permission, because if she does get hurt by this sniper while she's fighting, she might give Bam permission to use it.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I hope when Bam pops those thorns that we get to see more of these demons inside of him.
Dude, let me see those thorns again, man. Those little things. He had the red one, and then he had that purple one. Like, let me see some more.
Oh
of that,
yeah, the
dude.
ones on his head, yeah. And then he had didn't he have one on his chest?
I can't say if he did, but I wouldn't be surprised. It may have been something related to like that butterfly thing that he has going on.
That might, yeah, because I remember when we talked about that, where I was just like, dude, Bam's getting too many transformations too fast in this series. Like, what's going on?
Dude, he's got more transformations than a Super Saiyan at this point.
Yeah. Still weird to see those wings. It's an interesting design, but I was like, yeah, they just kind of look weird.
Yeah, they're growing on me little by little. I will say though, the other thing I really want to see more of, and we kind of got some glimpses of it in the Ranker battle, but I think it was in the last arc where Bam is talking to Hansung and they're discussing, how to use Shinsu. And that most wave controllers have a limit of what they can do, kind of like the rooms that they can have. But he goes, no, there's just a limit of what you can use. But since Bam can infinitely keep pulling Shinso out, I mean, if we see that with the Thorn, how much damage is this kid really going to do?
Yeah. Like I said, I hope we get that this season. This arc, actually. Yeah, I hope we get to see that.
I hope so, too. But overall, good chapter, man. I still feel it's kind of short, but the content was great. I keep getting closer and closer to wanting to just pay for the next 3.
Buy those chapters. I mean, from what Jerry said, it sounds like it's worth it.
I'm getting close to pulling that trigger, man. Especially right now. But overall, good stuff. Excited for next week's.
Yeah, excited for next week's episode and free chapter or paid chapter if we eventually get to that point on our end. But until then, remember you could follow us on social media at Unversed Podcast. Keep you updated when these episodes drop. And you can email us at unversedpodcast@gmail.com. What are you guys thinking of Tower of God so far? If you're new for the anime or the current arc, if you're reading the manhwa, we'd love to hear those thoughts. And of course, we would talk about on the next episode. That's going to be all for us today, guys. We'll catch you next week.
My brain's a portal from which your lyrics flow. My brain's a portal from which your lyrics flow. My brain's a portal from which your lyrics flow. My pain sounds horrid, but you don't hear it though. Cause everything you brought me through up to now makes me think that you changed your story soon as you had to go. Now you acting like you didn't choose it, like you didn't feel necessary to take your presence and remove it, like you didn't make me suck it up, like I was stupid, take advantage of my respect for you, totally abuse it. And you left the same way you forced your way in. When you came, I didn't want you to stay then, but you know how we keep changing. And you did that like my Mimi, somehow we remain friends. The way we struggle for power, like Alice is at stake, verbally tussle for hours, stretch the patience way thin. Be cool the next second, it was great then. The whole thing is kinda funny looking back at it. Magical moment, don't regret taking a crack at it. You emotional and we pragmatic, then we switch to you knocking out home runs that I never hit. I mean plenty of moments that I won't ever miss, but in the grand scheme they hold no relevance. I think the whole situation's so heaven sent, but it may never be the same again. So go ahead girl, hit me with that bass again like